Hello, and a very warm welcome once again to the Change Exchange. Our guest today, Herman Mashaba, and you will hear all about him if you don't know it yet in the next half hour. Herman, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for visiting.
Wonderful to be here.
I said to you before, I'm going to walk you through your life, and we're going to look at change moments, at moments of decision through art. The first one that struck me when I was looking at your history was that you went to the University of the North, and then it was closed down in 1980 because of political unrest, and then you didn't go back. Why?
What happened is the university closed down one morning, 6 o'clock, surrounded by the army, and we were given 6 hours to leave. And I think about a month or so when we were called back, I took a conscious decision not to go back. At the time, I was really very angry, realized going back to the institution I was not going to really achieve much, and I thought focusing on trying to leave the country, go for military training would really be a quicker way of facilitating our liberation. And I was unfortunate that the context never really came to the party to take me out of the country.
I don't think it was unfortunate. I think we are so fortunate that you stayed.
Well, I think, I don't know, maybe, the old man upstairs must have really had another agenda for me. That's the reason why I ended up not actually leaving.
So that was not your decision, that was circumstance?
No, definitely. I think if I had my way, I would have left. That's the reason why I decided not to go back. At the time when I was studying, I thought I was actually quite excited of one day becoming a political scientist. I really fell in love with political science, and my colleagues at university knew I was actually studying to one day become a professor in political science and really go all over the world lecturing or do whatever. And I ended up being a capitalist, and I've been like that for now many years, and the capitalist bug caught up with me, and here is it many years later.
You had 2 jobs working for a salary, and then you gave that up in your early 20s to start selling stuff from the boot of your car. Why?
Yeah, well, what happened is, I think about 6-7 months after university was open, realized I was really getting frustrated with just sitting at home waiting for context to get me out. Fortunately enough, one of my brothers-in-laws helped me to get employment at Spa Pretoria. Something that I never thought would really happen in my life, because I grew up actually avoiding contact with white people, because I thought as I was growing up in my youth that white people are evil creatures, and my survival was totally dependent on me avoiding contact with them. But all of a sudden I had to really face reality, and I had to really change my plans and change my thinking, and accepted the job with Spa Pretoria. And worked for them for 7 months, and in the process worked Motani Industries for 23 months. Basically, I worked for salary in my life for 30 months. And then while with Motani, that's when I realized I'm getting old. Now I'm 22, I'm not living the country any longer, and I was not really prepared to really be like my family, my mother, my father, people around. I needed to do something with my life. And I do it through business, because going to school was no longer the viable option at the time, and leaving the country, I'd already given up on that, and I decided I must go into business. But before getting into business, I needed to stabilize my life. That's when at the age of 22, I took a decision to stabilize my life. I had someone I was going out with, and we got married, and everything else now it's history.
What would you say to your daughter if she said to you she wants to get married at 22?
Not a good idea. Well, I think for us, it was a good idea. I can assure you.
You see it as stabilizing your life?
I tell you, I think really, actually for me, it's one of those decisions that I so treasure. Yes. To whoever gave me that wisdom to stabilize my life at the age of 22 before going into business. It's really a decision that I will treasure for the rest of my life, because I don't really believe I would have achieved half of what I've achieved if my life was not stable.
We'll come back to your wife, Connie, later. But when you then started, you decided to start your own company, Black Like Me. with a white chemist.
An Afrikaner for that matter, and you can imagine, I mean, we grew up thinking that whites were evil, Afrikaner were even worse, because yes, to some extent, Afrikaners used to be really a very violent people to us. But when I started actually working, because what happened is when I decided to really go into business, bought a car, then 2 months later resigned and started being a commission sales rep. And I then started interacting with white South Africans and mainly business owners, and realized that this whole issue about racism, it's actually something that's promoted to a large extent by the political leadership. Ordinary people are just really great human beings. And that's really what really started really changing in my life, when I started making money and really not really experiencing the kind of racism that I thought
you
I grew up, yes, and and really started realizing that I'm dealing with human beings, and I'm also treated as a human being equally. And,
it's exposure,
yes,
and I think that was what apartheid did, which was so invidious. It kept us apart, so we did not have any exposure to each other.
Absolutely, and then you can imagine now at the age of 24, I then decided, because for 2 years or so, selling as a commission sales rep, and then the process selling hair products for one company here in Johannesburg called World of Hair. And there was this Afrikaner the guy who was the production manager, and I needed to really go into manufacturing of these businesses. Obviously, I had no technical know-how, and Johan was there, and one day took a chance to say, Johan, you can make this stuff, Joseph and I can sell them. Black women out there needs to be pimped. Let's go out there and pimp them and make money.
How did you know that? How did you find that the market?
Well, the thing is, I sold for Superkel, for World of Hair, Superkel, the brand, for 19 months, and during that period, that's when I discovered this minefield of opportunity. The black women and men out there wanted to be pimped, and I decided I'm not going to pimp them for Thompson.
Tell me about getting the 30,000 Rand loan that made it possible.
Yeah, well, I think now all of a sudden you've got to really start a business. Now Johan is there, Joseph, three of us excited with this, and says, where do we get the funding? Yeah, and fortunately enough, there was a well-known businessman in Mabopane called Walter Dube. The wife used to be my client, had a salon, and really managed her to facilitate introducing us to the husband. And we went with this plan. Says, Mr. Dube, we've discovered a machine to legally make money, print money. And Walter, as a businessman, quite easy to really understand. Took us to meetings with him, and Walter bought into the stream. And says, chaps, I'll give you the opportunity. So him and another businessman from Garankwe called Uncle Ned came out with the 30,000 rands. You can imagine 1984, 85, 30,000 rands was a lot of money. So,
it was.
Now you've got these two young black guys with the white Afrikaner from Boksburg. They took a chance on us. And Walter managed to get us premises in Garankwe industrial area. SBDC had this small factory units. Yes. So Walter, with this contacts, managed to really get us 200 square meter factory in January of 1985.
Didn't you run up against the apartheid legislation in a mixed company?
Yeah, well, fortunately enough, the first thing that we had to do, because we could not operate in the so-called white South Africa, but then the homeland system was there, and you find a way. I think, I always tell people, as human beings, God has given us a little bit of intellect to really be able to use it to navigate the environment, because you have political leadership or animals coming out with legislation to impose against you. Yes, it's always obviously quite difficult for majority of the people, but sometimes I think if you apply a little bit of intellect, it's quite
you can
possible.
turn it to your advantage.
So Walter was quite clever enough to really organize this 200 square meter factory in Mabopane in the homeland, so it was easy to operate from there. And dealing now with the official side, Johan, as much as he was our technical partner, then came quite handy to deal with official issues, because then going to offices for us as black people in the 80s during the National Party rule was a dangerous thing to go to, just merely going to government offices. So Johan dealt with those issues, made it really quite easy for us. And Joseph and I would then concentrate on going out there and selling and making money.
But you went up against international companies. What made you believe that you could succeed?
I had no choice. You see, when, for me, I always really believe in stretching human beings, throw them into the deep sea. Once people are thrown into the deep sea, people will find a way to swim out. And I've really operated my life around such beliefs. I always believe in being thrown into the deep sea.
But why do you say you didn't have a choice?
Well, what choice did I have? I was not prepared to really work for someone else. I needed my own personal freedom, which I yearned for all my life. And I thought, as I was growing up as a youth, I thought I was going to use education to really attain my total freedom, which the apartheid system made it impossible. And all of a sudden, I then really found the capitalist route to really be the route that I could exploit. And that's exactly what I did. And I was not going to let anyone else stop me again.
Your factory burnt down. I mean, it was burnt down by someone.
Absolutely.
In 1993, and the insurance wouldn't pay out?
No, they paid out.
They did pay out?
No, they paid out, but obviously the process took long, and definitely I got less than half of the value of what I lost. But
how does one stand up again after something like that?
It was quite a difficult period of my life, but at the same time, I think for me, it has really been such a great learning experience. But learning in the sense that I learned a very important lesson of never taking things for granted. Because the time when my factory burned down, we just could not really cope with the demand. It was impossible. So I remember on the day that the factory got burned down, on the 17th of November 1993, I was the last one to leave the factory after addressing staff. The following day, we were starting a 24-hour shift at 6 o'clock the following morning. So I was the last one to leave after addressing people and made arrangements to meet them at 6 o'clock to start the shift. And got woken up 1, 2 in the morning that the factory was on fire. So that group of people starting at 6 o'clock, when they came, there was no factory. So you can imagine the effect of this. I mean, it was not an easy period for anybody.
But you built it up again.
But people started coming out crying, and I realized I needed to really do something, and do something really very fast. I had no time on my side. And within 2 weeks managed to buy property in Midrand, because at the time the apartheid structures were collapsing, so you could really buy property anywhere. As a South African, you could afford.
So it opened another door, really.
And as I said, learn the lesson of not really taking things for granted, and really always be proactive in life, be vigilant, and So right now, that's really what I do. And also really understand that your life can change overnight. So life doesn't really change, doesn't take generations. Your life from 1 minute to the next can be a totally different world out there. And that's really precisely what happened to me.
Many people find that the changes in life, find that deeply unsettling and deeply scary.
Which is really very unfortunate. But it's very unfortunate for them, for majority of the people, and not just in South Africa, all over the world. But that becomes an opportunity for entrepreneurs. For those that have got the courage.
Think on their feet.
Think on their feet and have the courage. Because the type of decision that I've learned to really take all my life, always very difficult decisions that majority of the people are too scared to take. People are more concerned about failures. They don't really think about the possibility in the event of success. And for me, I really always focus on success. Yes, I know failures will always be there, but at the end of the day, the more positive you think, and the more harder and more aggressive you think, the better chance of you actually succeeding. I've made lots of mistakes in my life, but it's part of life. Fortunate enough, I look back at my business career, I've made more positive decisions than the wrong ones. And I'll carry myself, and I hope I'm going to carry my life up to the end. Really being able to be courageous, be able to really take risks, which unfortunately majority of the people are too scared. People really prefer to really be in a comfortable situation where there's no changes. Whereas life is about change, and there's something that you're not going to stop.
the other element is that means that you take responsibility.
Absolutely.
You're not sitting there saying, well, the state or the system or anything else will look after me.
That's the reason why I'm really so disappointed with our new environment, our new South Africa, where we're really creating this dependency that is really destroying the millions of our people, taking away their dignity, because the government has created or is busy creating this impression that they're the only ones who can do anything positive for people. And what happens in the process, people actually wait for the government to do something for them, which is really quite unfortunate. I thought in 1994, when Mandela was inaugurated as the president of the country, I thought freedom is here. And freedom is about what? Personal responsibility. And I thought that it was going to really be the theme for this country. Unfortunately, here we are 21 years down the line. Our government strongly believes that they're the only ones qualified to do anything.
So what is your message to the young people coming through now?
It's actually quite difficult when people don't really get the right type of education, when we sit with an economy that's underperforming. We sit with one of the highest unemployment rates in the developing world. So it's really very difficult to inspire people. And really at the same time, with a government that is so powerful, out there every day preaching to people that they're the ones who can really do it. But I think the real small message I can send out to people to really be very conscious that politicians or anyone else, people are there for themselves and not for you. So I think if we can really learn to get our people to really take personal responsibility for their lives, but especially when you live in a democratic environment. You know what democracy does? It allows all of us to actually be meaningful participants by doing that every second year, every 2.5 years in this country. Every South African at the age of 18 becomes a very powerful citizen of this country. When you go out and cast a vote, you can go out and cast a vote that can really make some real major impact for your own personal future and the future of your children. So I think when people don't have to really underestimate their power,
yes, when
you live in a democratic environment.
You did try and become part of a big corporation. When was it? You sold 75% to Colgate?
Palmolive in 1997. That's a result of the fire. This fire, obviously, I can imagine. I mean, it really it destabilized my operation, and I really needed a partner. And Colgate came to the party, and 1997 sold 25% of the business to Colgate. I kept the 25%.
But 2 years later, you bought it back.
And 18 months into this marriage, Colgate and I really tried very hard to really get my business to embrace this new environment. But for some reason, the business refused to be part of a big organization. And when I announced to Colgate that that I'm moving on, my great corporate advisor guy called Shane Ferguson, a brilliant guy, put together a proposal for me to buy the business back from Colgate. And when I presented to Colgate graciously accepted, which is really another milestone in my life. So August of 1999 to pick the business. But now you can imagine to buying this business, really literally start from scratch. But another exciting period of my life. And I think also that marriage, that relationship with Colgate was also, for me, was a God-given opportunity to really give me an opportunity to really be exposed to corporate issues that I was never brought under. You can imagine coming from university, not even completing in my second year of my studies. You work for 30 months as a junior person, and then you become a trader selling from the boot of your car. That's all I knew. And then all of a sudden, for the first time in my life, that 2 years with Colgate was a great learning experience. Was really one of the best MBA programs any human being can be afforded that opportunity. And I feel I was really quite blessed for that opportunity to really be part of that environment, because I came out of what you'd really call those ashes, and really came out smarter. and more determined to actually really make a difference in my life.
But you're not a corporate creature. You need to be in charge of your own destiny.
Well, I think honestly, I was born to really be a free human being, independent. I mean, I look at my life now, almost turning 55. So you can imagine, I'm totally dependent on this human being to survive. So I'm not really reliant on someone else. So that is why for me, it's important for me to all the time ensure that whatever I do, I can really sustain what I do, because who can employ me, Ruda? Tell me, I mean, why do I know that I can really be employed by someone tomorrow?
Shame, you're unemployable.
Absolutely, and I accepted that. I mean, I see I don't really blame anyone for it. I was never trained to really be employed by someone else. So my total survival is totally dependent on me, and I've embraced that life and accepted it. So you can imagine I still have a balance of another 25-30 years of my working life, and I know I can't be employed, so the only way I can earn a living is to be employed by Herman.
And then about 10 years ago, you handed over the reins of Black Like Me to Connie, to your wife.
That's right.
And what are you focusing on now?
Yeah, what happened is in our country in 2001, 2002, with Parliament started coming out with the legislation to govern this Black economic empowerment. You know, that's when I realized, with or without me, this is really becoming a reality. And then at the same time, every day I get my white colleagues knocking at my door saying, hey, we're looking for investors, Black investors in our business. And fortunately enough, my corporate advisor, Shane, one day brought a great opportunity for me to some the white guys from Krugersdorp. They were looking for a Black investor in their business. So it was my first opportunity to really try this BE opportunity. Starting as very small the business, and I invested in that business and discovered another minefield of opportunity that you don't just really make money by producing shampoos and conditioners. You can also make money by selling and buying businesses. And so at the same time, I had an advantage of doing a corporate transaction with Colgate, selling of the business to them, to buying it back from them. You realize, you know what, you make actually more money by buying and selling of businesses.
There's a bigger playing field.
Absolutely. And I decided to graduate into that situation, and really started investing in one company, second company, but at the same time, not just really focused on BE opportunities only. I do investments, any investment that comes my way. So that's really what I do. I run a small investment company.
But 50% of your time is spent in, what shall I call it? Social, what did you call it just now? Social awareness.
Well, to become a social activist, because I think, and the reason why I've devoted the balance of my life was to really use my privileged position. I think I don't take things for granted that my luck over the last 30 years of my business career didn't just really happen because I was a hard-working person or I was clever. I've always believed there's been a bigger plan somewhere, and I think fortunate and privileged South Africans like myself, I believe I owe it to my country to really make a difference to the lives of other people. But I'm not the one going around giving people food parcels and T-shirts. I believe in
So what do you do?
In ensuring that I get involved in projects where we teach our nation to fish. I'm not really about giving fishes. I'm really about any project that comes my way with an element of teaching our nation how to fish. Those are the projects that sits well with me, and those are the projects that I really do anything to really support, and that's really what I do. So I really spend a lot of my time with such projects.
On a more personal note, how did you meet Connie, and what attracted you?
Well, what happened is in 1978, just after writing my matric, and one Friday afternoon, we finished writing during the weekend. Friday, with my mates, we were tired after really 3 months of focusing on books, and we said, guys, let's go out and fish and look for girls. And there was a high school not far from in our neighborhood, and we decided, let's go out and look for girls. And in that process, that's when I first saw Connie. but I only started going out with the following year. And we've really been big mates ever since. And
what is it that attracted you and that still holds you?
Her personality, I don't know, her beauty, everything
big
about
mates,
it.
So you talk.
Yes, absolutely. And so we've been fortunate, married now over 30 years. And we're still fortunate enough, big friends, and hope that we can maintain it.
I've also been married for more than 40 years. It's not fortunate. It is hard work. What makes your relationship work?
I don't
Especially
know.
Because you've been business partners as well, which is quite difficult.
In 1985, when we started Black Like Me, I recruited her to come and join us because I realized we needed someone to look after the books and the factory when we're gone, because Joseph and I, we were
on the road,
and Johan was a manufacturing person going out to Joburg, buy raw materials 2-3 times a day, because you can imagine for the first 2 years or so, we were buying literally on a COD basis because no one really trusted us, but we're not prepared to allow people to determine our fate. So Johan had to really go to Joburg a lot. So what happens, and we had needed someone to look after the factory in our absence. And fortunately enough, Connie decided to take a chance at half the salary of what she was earning at the time to come and join us. And really contributed to the success of our business, because we could relax while we were going out there selling, that we had someone quite reliable to really look after our business.
You have 2 kids. They're what, 20 and 18?
20 and 20.
What kind of a dad are you? Are you hands-on? Are you strict?
I don't know. I think that question should really be asked to my children, because I try to just really be a good dad to them. Not really try like any normal dad would really be to the kids. And am I strict? Am I soft? I think whatever answer will come out with my kids, I'm telling you, will argue to totally different to the thinking. So I don't know. The other ones, we can really make that determination.
Did it change you to have children?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you're aware, Connie and I have been married for a long time, really focused on business, and also at the same time, the old man upstairs said it's not yet time for you to really have children. So we had kids much later in our marriage, and but we were so lucky in the sense that by not having children at the early stage, gave us an opportunity to travel the world without having to really worry about leaving the kids behind. But obviously, as soon as the kids came into our lives, we can imagine the difference. So that's when we had to really slow down, really give them a chance to grow up under proper guidance. And I think at the same time, which was really great, Connie decided to stop working for a while, focus on her studies and look after the children as well, which was, I think, for me was a great gesture from my side to really look at life from that perspective, to take responsibility for this little ones coming up.
So many men in South Africa are absent as fathers. What can we do about that?
Oh yeah, no. This is actually one of the biggest crimes or tragedies that this country is committing, in terms of this high unemployment, which is really creating havoc in our communities. Because how do we bring out kids without really complete family structures? We're looking for trouble as a nation. And as I say, high unemployment, there's dependency, the situation, and so forth. These are the issues that I believe as a country, if we're not going to really address and ensuring that we can really bring family structures back in place, we'll pay a heavy price. I cannot really see how we're going to succeed as a country, as a nation, if we're not going to do something about fixing our family structures.
Tell me about your home. What made you choose it? Did you look for space? Did you look for light and airy, for a beautiful tree in the garden?
Well, look, I think I've lived in the same house for many years. We moved into Joburg. We're from Pretoria, born and brought up as in Hermans. In fact, I look at my life, move from various places, from Hermans, Soshanguve, Pretoria North, and eventually in 1998 came to Joburg. And lived in one house for many years, and I think the current house we've been in for the last 7-8 years. What do I love about the place? I think, I don't know, it's a difficult question for me to really answer, because a home, it's important, but not really important. Fortunately, it is important for my family. For me, I just really need a roof over my head, decent bedroom I can sleep, and a decent place where I can watch television. So, but I love my neighborhood. I love my house. I love the area. So yeah, I'm really quite good. Like it that actually when we initially moved to Joburg, we thought we'll really be here for years and move back to Pretoria, because we used to be in love with Pretoria. But ever since moving to Joburg, at the moment, there's nowhere else to go. From a work perspective, yes. I mean, there are other places in this country one can live depending on the type of work that you do. But for the work that I do, I mean, my offices are in Sandton. I live in Sandton, 5 minutes away from my home. I think for me, it's such an ideal environment. If you really look at how Sandton CBD has grown the last 10 years or so, really been great to really see this massive development happening in front of your eyes. Actually, looking back, my mother used to really to work in Sandton. The Sandton city, when we'd open, my mother used to really work in Sundown. Used to come and visit her. I was 15, 16 at the time. So now, I see now this development really dating back to 35, 36 years, or many years ago, and I really see it. And I live in this economic hub of South Africa, if not the African continent. And I really hope that as a country we can really maintain this, because I think we've inherited a great infrastructure. But I think the challenge for us, the new South Africa, is to really take this to the next level.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming to visit.
Thanks so much for the opportunity to talk to you.
Till next time, goodbye.